There's too many MCs, not enough mics. I'll be playing Mr. Big. I'm gonna get you, sucker. I play my enemies like a game of chess.
What's up, my Wizards Dev? SBMTG down there. We got decks. Here's a thing. Probably the most competitive thing that I've done since Oath came out. I've been working on this deck for what seems like a very long time, 5 or 6 weeks now. And it's gone through a lot of changes, you know. This is green-white tokens right here, and at first I wanted to do sort of a +1/+1 counter synergy thing with Hardened Scales, which did make it into the board, but not into the main deck. But that just didn't feel powerful enough. It didn't have all the best options or anything. What we've ended up with plays a lot of the most powerful cards in the format. It has something like 26 cards that create tokens. Normally, you know how this is done. I do the creatures first, and then I go from there. But I'm going to do the Planeswalkers first this time, because they're the entire reason, I think, to even play the deck, you know. The fact that these two cards exist in the same format together is mind-blowing. There's 3 copies of Nissa, Voice of Zendikar, and 4 copies of Gideon, Ally of Zendikar. They're both of Zendikar. That's cool. They work together in the story, in the lore, and they work together well on the tabletop, too. The fact that they both create tokens and both have Anthem effects on them is amazing. The entire reason, I mean, you could have no other cards in the deck that create tokens, just these 2 things and like some removal, and that would probably be a fine deck, but we're really going all in on the token strategy in this one. We're going extremely wide. These 2 cards facilitate that very well, obviously, and the fact, like I previously mentioned, they both have Anthem effects is very important for tokens decks. That rhymes. But you gotta play some creatures in a thing like this. We're playing only 9 creatures, but like I said before, you know, 26 cards that create tokens, so you kind of look at all of those cards as creatures that we're playing. We're playing 4 copies of Hangarback Walker as no-brainer inclusions to the deck, you know. These work really well with Nissa, you know. Nissa can put +1/+1 counters on your... I'm always bad at saying +1/+1 counters on your Hangarback Walker, and that's pretty darn cool right there. But, you know, it just doesn't end there. There's value for days with Hangarback Walker. If it does split into multiple flyers, then the fact that we have Anthem effects on our Planeswalkers, that only gets better, you know. So, yes, to Hangarback, I just really, of course, we're playing Hangarback Walker. We're playing 3 copies of Monastery Mentor in the deck, a fairly recent addition. I was reluctant to add it because I figured it'd be fragile. And it is, but it usually leave behind at least a guy or 2 that have prowess and benefit from our Anthem effects. Not just Nissa and Gideon, but another one that we're playing too. So it just has been super duper solid. The fact that the guys have prowess and so does he is really good. So yeah, I'm down for Monastery Mentor. The card has been a little better than I thought it would be because we're more mid-range than a lot of the decks that like to play Mentor. You know, they'll have spells that are very cheap to cast, and we don't have too much of that, you know. All of our gas starts at like 3 mana, so that can be an issue with something like this, but we'll almost always, every turn that we don't draw a land, get a guy. So that can be really good, especially in board stalls, which are what we're sort of looking to create. We're looking to get board stalls because in the long game, we just create so many guys that we're going to break the stall. So Monastery Mentor helps with that. 2 copies of Wingmate Roc in the deck, another thing that I just added in the last 2 weeks, really. And this has made a huge difference. Having something that just naturally has flying that we can activate the raid on very easily, even if we just swing in with 1 guy that we know we're going to lose, it's totally worth trading that token for 2, 3 powered flyers that are usually higher than that if we have an emblem out or a Nissa that we can neg too. So just Wingmate Roc has been amazing. Usually gets to be at least a 4, maybe even 5 power pair of flyers, you know, 10 power and all. That's just crazy later on in the game. It can break up board stalls, which I already mentioned we're very good at getting into and then getting out of with all our sort of inevitability and just creating this huge army. So Wingmate Roc has been good considering it's one of our only evasive options in the deck. Yes, Hangarback Walker tokens can be a thing, and they get relatively big, but it's great to have Wingmate Roc as just something that gives us so much power all in one play out of nowhere. So he's awesome. I've got a special section here in the non-creature spells for enchantments, which I rarely do. But we are playing 14 total enchantments, which sounds like a lot. But we've got enchantments that kill guys, effectively kill guys. We've got enchantments that make creatures. So, you know, not all is as it seems here. First of all, we've got 3 copies of Silkwrap and 3 copies of Stasis Snare. There are removal. We need the removal in the deck. I mean, there's really not a whole lot of other options we can play. And yeah, we're playing Dromoka's Command. That counts as removal too, which gives us a total of 10 removal options, which is about where we want to be. be in what is basically a mid-range deck, you know. I was playing 4 of each of these 2 enchantments here, but wanted to whittle it down so we'd have a few more offensive options and more ways of just going extremely wide, you know. So we don't need all the removal in the world. I mean, we've got things to chump block for us, and we can just really, again, inevitability is key. Even if they have big dudes, we can hold them off and eventually break the stalemate. So we don't need all the removal in the world, but it is important to take out key options. So yes, let's play these. 4 copies of Oath of Gideon in the deck, and it does a lot of good things. It's been 4 copies since day 1. I never wanted fewer copies of this card. Just really good with both Planeswalkers in the deck. Able to allow Gideon, for instance, to do his emblem the turn he comes out and stay on the battlefield. And usually we've got a lot of small creatures that can chump block, get him around to that next turn, protect him. With Nissa, when we play her, it gives her 4 loyalty. That allows us to do her -2 twice without having to do her +1 in between. That's actually super relevant too. Not only that, but it gives us 2 guys. If we've got an emblem there, 2 2s, it's actually super good. So just more guys, more creatures, more tokens, and the ability to use our Planeswalkers way, way more effectively. So Oath of Gideon's been good, and to answer any comments, questions, yes, just play one on top of another one. It's fine. You'll have to destroy one of them, but you'll get the 2 guys. It doesn't matter. And to finish off the enchantments, 4 copies of Retreat to Emeria. The pre-Oath of the Gatewatch green-white tokens decks already played this card to great effect, and a full 4 of too. This allows us to turn turns where we draw a land into a very profitable turn for us, which is something the deck really, really, really wants. It's another anthem effect for our creatures, and another way of making tokens. Just everything the deck could possibly want. It's sort of a mini Gideon, you know. It doesn't do anything on turns where you don't draw a land, which is kind of lame, yes, but that is outweighed by the fact that usually if you draw a land on turn 7, that's really bad. And with Retreat to Emeria out, that actually makes it amazing. So yes to Retreat to Emeria. I'm telling you, it's really, really good. I've played with it in a bunch of decks at this point, both budget and otherwise. And I didn't want to give the card a fair shake at first, but once you play with it, the card turns out fantastic. And 6 other non-creature spells in the deck here. We're playing 4 copies of Dromoka's Command, obviously. Another form of removal. Gives us +1/+1 counters. That's at least on theme. But can also make smaller creatures a little bit bigger. That's cool. Works very, very well with Hangarback Walker, obviously. So, yeah, everything about Dromoka's Command. Makes them, it kills other Silkwraps and stuff like that, and Oaths that people might be playing, Jeskai Ascendancies and such. So just, yeah, totally to this. And 2 copies of Secure the Waste, which is not just on theme, it's also a very, very powerful card. I wanted to play just 1 when I first started the deck. I just wanted a filler, and Secure the Waste seemed like the most obvious thing. But upped it to 2 and thinking about 3 at this point because it's that good. It can be used as removal when they swing in during their combat step. You just make Secure the Waste tokens and, triple, quadruple block, whatever you got to do, a big guy. That's a form of removal at instant speed in a way. That's cool, but mostly we're looking to do this cool trick in this deck that's available to us where if we have a Gideon or a Nissa or a Retreat to Emeria out, there's 3 different ways of doing this in the deck, that we can just go from 0 to 100 like actually really, really quick. We can have literally nothing but lands out at the end of our opponent's turn. Play Secure the Waste for X, and in the next turn we can play a Gideon, a Nissa, or a Retreat, and if we play the Retreat we have to play a land too. But immediately we have an army of 2/2 guys. That seems really good because you're going from nothing to a lot very, very fast, and that has won a lot of games in testing. And a lot of there's been pros that have talked about this play too. Just being able to go from literally no permanents other than lands to a giant army is very good, especially when you're doing it essentially at mostly instant speed. The Secure is, at least. And that's really, really good against control. Just Secure the Waste in and of itself is good against control. So you wait until they tap out, by the way. That's how you do that. Wait until they tap out at the end of your turn and then secure, So, yes. There's 24 lands in the deck, and we really don't have to get too super scientific or anything. I am playing the 2 Blossoming Sands. Some people may take issue, and some people may say play 4. I say split the difference, But I think it's worth it to play at least the 2 copies. I want to have that sort of versatility in the mana base and have more dual lands. Because we see we're playing an awful lot of basics compared to what we're used to. But, I just don't see the reason to play a bunch of fancy junk in this deck. This works very well. Here's a sideboard for you, and it's fairly typical, but some things may jump out at you here. Hardened Scales is good in Wars of Attrition, which, you know, we're very good at winning already, but in decks that are also similar to ours, which there's a lot of tokens built in the format, Hardened Scales does provide that little bit of extra edge that's very, very good for us. Air of the Wilds is in there against, you know, more aggro-based builds, and even some mid-range builds that just play a lot of creatures, but mostly aggro builds. We want to clog up the board early so we can get to the mid-game, which is where we thrive. And the last thing that might jump out is probably Pulse of Murasa. I want to justify me not playing Den Protector in the deck, although I am still down for playing Den Protector. He was taken out of the deck fairly recently in favor of Monastery Mentor. Now, if you wanted to play Den Protector instead of Monastery Mentor, I wouldn't begrudge you that. He's very good in these long game fights that we get into, but so is Monastery Mentor, you know. But with Den Protector, I just felt like he was a little bit clunkier than I needed him to be. Now, Pulse of Murasa provides us all the same things as Den Protector, except that it gets us the card for much cheaper. That's pretty cool. Gets us the card immediately at instant speed. That's pretty cool. And helps out against the aggro decks that we're not great against because we need to get into the mid-game. If we can get into the mid-game and get all our tokens out against aggro, we can chump block for days, rendering them useless, which is good. However, Pulse of Murasa gives us that 6 life, which really puts us over the top against a lot of aggro-based decks, and a little earlier in the game, too. So, I like Pulse of Murasa a little bit better for all intents and purposes, although I do like Den Protector's ability to go unblocked if we get enough counters on him. So this is sort of between, you know, how you want to do it, but Pulse has been very, very good against aggro, just how I wanted it to be, and is cheaper for all, you know, all things considered, than Den Protector. So I liked Pulse, to be honest with you. And here's your power rankings right here. We got a final score of 69 in this deck. It looks unassuming, but we play a lot of the most powerful cards in the format, from Hangarback Walker to Dromoka's Command, Nissa, Gideon, and a lot of the other cards we're playing are extremely powerful. So the deck is very good, has good long game, but it's sort of single-minded. That can be a problem. And it is a snowball effect, which is good in long games, but is sort of a slow boil at the same time. So it can be a little slow to start. Those are the pros and cons, but end of the day, I think the deck is very, very good and has been awesome in testing. That's all I got for now. Let me know what you want to see next time. Thanks for all the response to the top 10 upcoming deck techs. A lot of interesting stuff on that list. And after I do Black-White Allies, which is probably next, I'll get to work on all that. But let me know what you want to see, and like, share, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the video, or check out any of these other things that I've done right here that I'm pretty proud of. I'm Dev from SBMTG. This is Ziggy down here, always sleepy. I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching, my wizards. Oh, my sleepy buddy.